when police pried open an old, rusted barrel in the woods of a quiet American town. They weren't prepared for what they would find inside.
The remains of a young woman. No identification, no explanation, and to this day, decades later, no one knows who she was. This is the chilling story of the girl in the barrel, a case that continues to haunt investigators and baffle the public.
How could someone vanish so completely, only to be discovered in such a macabre way? And who would go to such lengths to erase her identity? Today, we're diving deep into one of America's most perplexing unsolved murders. It all began on a quiet morning in Ellenstown, New Hampshire, on November 10, 1985. A hunter, walking through the dense woods of Bear Brook State Park, stumbled upon a large rusted 55-gallon drum. Curiosity got the better of him, and when he knocked it over, he made a gruesome discovery.
Inside, wrapped in plastic, were the partial remains of an adult female and a young girl. The scene was shocking, and it kicked off an investigation that would spend decades and grow even more complex.
Local authorities were immediately called to this remote corner of the county.
The barrel was located just a short distance from a burned-down store, a detail that seemed significant but led nowhere. The initial investigation was intense.
Detectives scoured the area for evidence, but the scene offered few clues. There were no fingerprints, no identification cards, nothing to suggest who these two individuals were.
The remains were skeletonized, indicating they had been there for a significant amount of time, possibly since the late 1970s or early 1980s. The medical examiner determined that both victims had died from blunt force trauma. It was a clear case of homicide, but without identities. The case stalled almost immediately. The unknown woman and child were given a placeholder name, the Bear Brook victims. For years, the case file collected dust. Sketches of the victims were created and circulated, but no one came forward to claim them.
They were phantoms, lost to time. The case was a ghost story whispered around the small town of Ellenstown.
Who were they?
Were they mother and daughter? And who could have committed such a brutal act?
The forest held its secrets tightly. Investigators pursued every possible lead, cross-referencing missing persons reports from across the country, but nothing matched.
It was as if these two had never existed.
The barrel itself was a dead end.
It was a common type of industrial drum, impossible to trace back to a specific owner.
The killer, it seemed, had planned this meticulously, choosing a location and a method designed to conceal his crime for as long as possible.
Then, in the year 2000, the case took an even stranger turn.
15 years after the first discovery, a state trooper revisiting the cold case decided to return to the original crime scene. Just about 100 yards from where the first barrel was found, he discovered another 55-gallon drum, almost identical to the first.
The feeling of dread must have been overwhelming.
And when authorities opened this second barrel, their worst fears were confirmed.
Inside were the remains of two more young girls.
The horror of the situation was unimaginable. This wasn't just a double homicide. It was a quadruple murder. The forest had been hiding a secret cemetery. The discovery of the second barrel deepened the mystery exponentially. Now, investigators were dealing with 4 unidentified victims, 1 adult woman and 3 children. Forensic analysis determined that the 2 new victims were also likely related to the adult woman found in the first barrel. DNA testing was still in its infancy, but early tests confirmed that the adult woman was the mother of 2 of the 3 children. One girl, the middle child found in the first barrel, was not biologically related to her. This revelation added another layer of complexity. Who was this third child?
Was she a friend, a step-sibling,
or another victim from a completely separate family? The questions piled up, but the answers remained buried.
The case of the Bear Brook murders became a national sensation.
The media dubbed the unknown killer the chameleon killer because of his ability to seemingly change identities and disappear without a trace. For nearly 2 more decades, the identities of the 4 victims remained a complete mystery.
They were known simply as the Ellenstown 4.
Investigators used every tool at their disposal. Forensic artists created new, more detailed reconstructions of their faces. Isotopes from their teeth and bones were analyzed to determine where they might have lived, suggesting they had spent time in various regions across the United States.
But still, no names. The breakthrough finally came thanks to the incredible advancements in genetic genealogy, the same technology used to catch the Golden State Killer.
Investigators uploaded the victims' DNA profiles to public genealogy websites, hoping to find distant relatives who had submitted their own DNA for ancestry testing.
In 2018, a genealogist named Barbara I. Venter
who had worked on the Golden State Killer case, took an interest in the Bearbrook mystery.
Through painstaking work, she began building a family tree for the unknown victims. After months of tireless research, she found a match.
The DNA led her to a woman in California who had submitted her DNA and was identified as a first cousin to the adult victim. This was the key that unlocked everything. The adult woman was finally identified as Marley's Elizabeth Honeychurch.
She had been born in 1954 and had gone missing with her 2 daughters around Thanksgiving of 1978 after a fight with her family. Her 2 daughters were Marie Elizabeth Vaughan and Sarah Lynn McQuarters, the other 2 biological children found in the barrels. After 40 years, 3 of the 4 victims finally had their names back. It was a bittersweet victory.
Their families finally knew what had happened, but the grief was immense. With the victims identified, the focus shifted entirely to finding the killer.
The investigation into Marley's life led police to a man named Terry Peter Rasmussen. He was a drifter who used many aliases, a true chameleon.
Marley's had been dating him in the late 1970s.
Rasmussen had a long and shadowy criminal history, and investigators soon realized he was the prime suspect.
He had been living with Marley's and her daughters in New Hampshire around the time they disappeared.
But where was he now?
The search revealed that Rasmussen had died in prison in 2010 while serving a sentence for another murder, the 2002 murder of his then wife. You soon knew he had taken his secrets to the grave. But the story doesn't end there. Remember the 3rd child, the one who wasn't related to Marley's?
Rasmussen was also the key to her identity.
DNA proved that Rasmussen was the biological father of this middle child.
For a while, her identity remained a mystery, the last piece of the puzzle. But in 2019, through more genetic genealogy, she was finally identified as well. Her name was Denise Bodam, a woman who had disappeared from New Hampshire in 1981 along with her infant daughter and her boyfriend at the time, none other than Terry Rasmussen. Police now believe that Rasmussen killed Denise somewhere between 1981 and 1985 and then abandoned her infant daughter, who was later found alive and adopted by another family. That infant daughter, now an adult, had no idea about her true origins until investigators contacted her. Rasmussen was a monster who had left a trail of death and broken families across the country for decades.
Even though the primary suspect is identified, the case of the girl in the barrel, or rather, the girls in the barrels, still feels hauntingly unresolved.
Rasmussen never faced justice for the murders of Marley's Marie, Sarah, and his own daughter. He died without ever confessing, without ever explaining why.
What drove him to commit such unspeakable acts? And are there other victims out there? Investigators strongly believe so.
Rasmussen's life is a black hole of aliases and missing years. He is suspected in several other disappearances and murders across the country.
The full extent of his crimes may never be known. The story of the Bearbrook murders is a testament to the relentless dedication of law enforcement and the power of science. It shows that even after decades of silence, the truth can eventually surface.
But it's also a chilling reminder of the darkness that can hide in plain sight.
Their lives were stolen and hidden away in the woods, their stories almost erased forever.
Today, their names are known, and their memory is honored, but the forest where they were found will forever be a place of sorrow and unanswered questions.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of America's most haunting cold cases. The world of true crime is filled with stories that deserve to be told.
If you found this case as compelling as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more chilling mysteries.
Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an update.
Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.